So hello everyone, welcome for today's build guide. We have here the materials that we're going to use to build our first stacked acrylic mechanical keyboard. So this is the MW75. We got it from the Geeksta, as well as my favorite budget linear switches, the Gateron Milky Yellow Pro. The Geeksta right now is focused on custom mechanical keyboards and the like, and in building a community-based store for every type of enthusiast, whether a newbie or the experienced ones in this hobby. Do check out their Facebook page and their Shopee store. They offer a lot of items for your mechanical keyboard needs. I personally have gotten several items from them. Amazing customer service. You can easily chat them and they would reply to your queries. So please do check them out. Lots of good stuff in their store. For this keyboard, I will be using the Akko screw-in stabilizers. This was sent in by Akko Gaming Gears for review, and I'm really impressed with these stabilizers. For around 600 pesos, you get a complete set. Actually, more than a complete set. These are several pieces, I think 9 pieces of stabilizers for your shift, spacebar, and backspace, and it comes in with 2 spacebar stabilizers, 6.25 unit and a 7 unit stabilizer. Very impressed with the packaging as well and the looks of the stabilizers. Let's find out during the build process how these stabilizers stack up to my favorite screw-in stabilizers, the Durock V2 screw-in stabilizers. Of course, we will be lubing these stabilizers using lubes from Zion Studios PH. These are their own formulated lubricants specially designed for keyboard, switches, and stabilizers. I've been using them for quite some time and I'm really impressed. They come in at a cheaper price compared to your usual Krytox lubes. The viscosity is around the same. Zion tells me that these are exactly the same viscosity as the Krytox lubes, and I think they feel the same, and they are really good. They're really good at a very affordable price, so you should check out these lubes. So upon opening the box, we will see the components inside the box. The first pouch contains the feet of the keyboard that we will be using. I will show you later how to assemble these feet. And then inside there's another pouch which contains the gasket strips, the screws, the standoffs, the rubber feet, the knob, the daughter board, and some tools that you might need when assembling the keyboard. And finally, going inside the keyboard, you see this beautiful stacked acrylic pieces that we will be using as the keyboard case. This keyboard comes also with its very own PE foam. This is very nice. After going through this, you will see the polycarbonate plate, which is very flexy. Very beautifully designed with all these flex cuts and very flexy. And then you have the bottom part of the keyboard, and finally the PCB. And here you can see the flex cuts inside the PCB. Really wonderful. The first thing that we have to assemble in this keyboard are the feet that we will be using, which will attach to the lower part of the case. I do suggest when assembling this keyboard that you organize the parts together so as not to get confused. So I've organized my build this way. So this part are all the materials that I will be needing for the case. So this is the stacked acrylic case plus the bottom. And then this is very crucial. You have to organize the legs into 3 different groups because there are 3 pieces. First group are the legs, which I will call the ordinary legs because they are the normal looking legs without anything special on them. They have a flat surface, triangular in shape. The second group are the ones with holes where the nuts will go. And the third group are the legs which has protrusions on them. So organize your legs according to those 3 groups. Next thing that I would want to organize are the standoffs. So there are 2 types of standoffs, one that is long and one that is short. The longer ones will be the ones that we will use for the legs, the shorter ones will be used for the case. So the first thing that you have to do is remove the peelings on each of the acrylic pieces, even on the case. This is such a pain to do. And then after that, we have to put the nut in the nut holder. So there's a leg with a nut holder, as I told a while ago, and it should look like this. 2 nuts will go there, one on the right and the left side. And then you have to arrange it. The arrangement is as follows. You have to put 2 pieces with the protrusions in the middle, and then on each side of that you put 1 piece of leg with the nuts. So it goes on each side of the middle portion with protrusions, and then after that the regular leg, the ordinary leg, goes on the outermost layer of the set. And then you have to secure this with the longer, again, repeat, longer standoff. And then you have to put screws on each side. Don't worry about the screw. All of the screws in the set are the same. So I wish MW75 would have just done this for us. So I'm not sure why we have to assemble this by ourselves, but maybe that's the joy of building this kit. I don't know. The final leg should look something like this. So again, please follow the arrangement of the leg piece, and then you have to do this for the other leg, and then after that the rest is a little bit more easy and less complicated. The next thing that you should do is to put the legs in the lower case. Please make sure that you remove the translucent peeling of this lower case. I forgot to remove it the first time I did it. And then next is you just put on the screws on the nut. So there are 4 screws per leg, and you do that on each side. After which, the next thing that we do is to put the standoffs, the smaller standoffs, around the case. There are 8 pieces of them altogether. Here's a tip: do not tighten them 100%, maybe just 80 or 90% to give it a room to play, which will make alignment of your acrylic case easier for the next step. Be careful with this process. When you screw in the screws, be very gentle as to avoid over tightening and breaking the case. This is what your keyboard should look like at this point. After that, we put in the daughter board. This is a very weird part. The daughter board should be placed outside of the lower case. Otherwise, you won't be able to close it. So here is an image of how the daughter board should look like once installed. Next is we stack the acrylic case together. There are 4 pieces, the topmost, and then second to that should be this piece with the indentations to allow the gaskets and the plate to sit on the case. So there's only 1 piece with indentations like this. Again, remember that should be second to the topmost. The topmost is easy to figure out. That's the one with the knob hole in it. So once that's done, the next thing that you should work on is the PCB. I used the Akko screw-in stabilizers lubed with Lubes stabilizer and switch lube from Zion Studios. Take note that you have to solder the knob onto the PCB. So you have to have someone, if you don't know how to solder, you have to have someone to solder it for you. After that, the next thing that we will be assembling would be the plate, and it's pretty straightforward. Just apply your gasket strips around the plate, and that's pretty much it. Nothing special in this part. After putting gaskets on top and below the plate to sandwich it, this is how your gasket should look like. And then the next step would be to place in the PE foam. Please do take note that I have to cut out some of the pieces of the PE foam so as to allow me to slide it in the parts of the PCB where I already placed the stabilizers. I find this easier than removing the stabilizers and putting it back all together. It's much more easy to just cut off some slits onto the PE foam. It wouldn't affect the sound in any way. Do remember that you also have to cut out the PE foam to make room for the knob. And after that, the next thing that we put on your keyboard is the plate foam. And again, here I prefer to cut out some of the piece that goes underneath the space bar. So this is something that I learned while building the Mr. Suit. So if I don't cut this out, this will interfere with the screw-in stabilizers. So I had to cut some of those small pieces out. After doing that, the rest is pretty standard. You have to put in your switches onto your plate PCB sandwich. Be very careful, and I highly recommend that you do this on a flat surface. Even better if you could support the hot swap sockets of your PCB while putting in the switches. This is a good practice so that you do not destroy your hot swap PCB. The final step involves putting in and connecting your daughter board into your PCB, and finally putting your PCB on the stacked acrylic case, putting in the topmost part of the case and securing it with the screws. So there are 8 screws in total. Make sure that everything is perfectly aligned. Screw the screws on the top and lower portion of the standoff of the case. And basically that's it. You can put in your keycaps. My tips when building this keyboard, as I fear that the keyboard is very fragile, if you are to remove, replace, and put switches and keycaps, I do suggest that you disassemble the keyboard, put out the PCB plate assembly, and do everything that you have to do while it is outside of the keyboard case. Otherwise, everything is just too bouncy, everything is fragile. The acrylic case, you might induce some damage if you do the traditional way of just putting keycaps and switches while the PCB is inside the keyboard case. So be very careful with replacing keycaps and switches. Be very careful when tightening the screws of this keyboard. Tighten them just enough, but not too much, because you can break the acrylic case. Okay, so my final thoughts on this keyboard. Let's start with the things that I did not like so much. Number one, it's the construction of the keyboard, the manufacturing quality. There are some imperfections here and there. Some of the acrylic pieces in the stand don't perfectly align, as well as some of the pieces on the case. It's not 100% perfect, but very minimal. So I could let that go. I'm not that of a perfectionist when it comes to aesthetics. So for people who are bothered by those imperfections, then this might not be for you. They are minute details, but it kind of adds up. So the feet, the casing, the knob is not 100% aligned. So you have to move the gaskets left and right to make sure that the keycaps are not interfering with the case. But once you got it right, then there's no problem. There's no problem at all with the functionality. But with aesthetics, again, if you do look at it on the sides, there are some misalignments here and there, very minor. Okay. Number 2 is the build process. This keyboard, I believe, is not for beginners. If this will be your first custom keyboard, if this will be your first time assembling a keyboard, then I might suggest you start elsewhere. It might be frustrating to build this for beginners, and worse, if you're not that careful, you might be able to break some of the acrylic pieces. You might overscrew some of the screw and break the plates, so you have to be very careful. And hopefully this video and this build guide, for those who are willing to explore building their stacked acrylic keyboard, hopefully this video and build guide would make things very easy for you. So yeah, for first time keyboard builders, this might not be it. But if you do really like this keyboard, which I think there's a lot to like in this keyboard, then you might try having someone more experienced to build it. Okay, or then again, I made this video for you guys to have a easier time building it. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, This is the first video on YouTube specifically for the MW75 build. So the things I like. So having said the things I like about this keyboard, there's a lot to like about this keyboard. Number one, it's the light show. I am not really fond of RGB lighting, but with the stock clear acrylic case of this keyboard, damn, it really does look pretty awesome, especially when I'm typing at night. So you can see the light play. There's a lot of modes that you can select from. So it's really nice. It's really nice. It's fancy, but in a good way. I think this keyboard goes all out RGB, and for me it's either no RGB like most of my keyboards, or all out RGB. So RGB lighting plus a clear case with the downward LED light glow on the bottom case. So it's really awesome. And that's coming from a guy who does put more emphasis on the typing experience and the typing sound. So that means a lot. Number two, the typing feel. The typing feel of this keyboard. I think you won't be able to get this typing feel with any other keyboard at the price range. So at 5,000 peso bare bones, of course, you'd have to get stabilizer, switches, and keycaps, which will eventually make the total cost of this keyboard at around 8,000 to 9,000 pesos, depending on your switches and keycap. But if we're talking bare bones to bare bones, at 5,000, I don't think you have any other options with such specs and features. So again, polycarbonate plate with flex cuts, south-facing PCB with flex cuts. It's really hard to find flex cuts on PCBs at this price range. Okay, VIA compatible, proper gasket mounting design with a lot of flex, very bouncy, very soft typing feel. You just can't get that with any other keyboards at this price point. So if you do want to have that typing feel of premium bouncy keyboards, then this is your go-to. This is your option. I do love the sound. It's a muted, deep, talky sound profile as expected from a plastic acrylic casing. So that's one thing that I do really love about this keyboard. So if you want a talky build, so like this one, it's very muted. I built this to be a muted talky keyboard with the Gatron Milky Pro Yellow. There's nothing much that you have to do. So you don't, for me personally, you don't need to tempest tape this. You don't need to polyfill. You can, but on its own, it sounds really clean and good. See? So I don't think I need to further mod this keyboard. Then again, to be able to assemble it takes a lot of time and effort. So you do have to consider that. So yeah, there's a knob. It's VIA compatible, so you can easily reprogram any keys. It's a very good keyboard. You get your money's worth as long as you know what you're doing. So how does it compare to other 75% keyboards that I've tried so far? I will tell you this in all honesty. So you have several options at the same price range or lower price range. You have the G80, the ACO ACR keyboards. My review unit is just coming in, so I wouldn't be able to compare it with that. I can compare this with the G80, with the Keychron Q1, and I think this keyboard, if you're looking for the typing feel, this keyboard will be better than the Lychee G80, and even with the Keychron Q1. Okay, but if you want a keyboard that is more beginners friendly, the Lychee G80 might be your go-to. That keyboard is so easy to use out of the box. It sounds good. If you want the aluminum sound, because this one will never sound like an aluminum keyboard. If you want the full aluminum keyboard with the sound profile of an aluminum keyboard, then the Keychron Q1 might be the better choice. Okay. Again, with the price range, with the budget, MW75, hands down, it feels premium. It feels premium, it sounds premium. It's just that I don't think this is a beginner's friendly keyboard. So that's it. So again, thank you for watching. I hope you find this content useful. Please do support this page by liking and subscribing to our channel. And if you like the content, I'll see you again on the next review.